Good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to today's advisory design panel meeting. I think we can probably get started. It's 2:07. So our chair is not in attendance today. So hoping that one of the advisory design panel members that are here could offer to chair today's meeting. Mary, unfortunately, is not a advisory design panel member. She's a liaison. So if one of the four of you would like to chair the meeting today, that would be very much appreciated. Okay. All right. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. So I'll let you start. So the first item on the agenda is calling the meeting to order. Okay.
Is it? Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Second. Okay. Got it. Okay,
Yes, and just adding to that, Wendy is sitting back at her desk making notes. So if we could all try to remember to use the microphone, so while she's recording the meeting, she can hear everyone's thoughts. Thanks.
Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. Then we need somebody to second it, right? Or do we? No. Okay, got that. So then the adoption of minutes would be the second one, and that is from the last meeting, April 10th. So I'd like to move that we adopt the minutes from the last session held April 10th. That was just the orientation session though, wasn't it? Okay. Adopt the minutes from that. Thank you. Okay, and then the next one is the review of 1225 Franklin's Gull Road. And I'm assuming we're going to have a presentation. Dariush?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to invite first Lori, who is the head of the basically society, to give us this very short introduction of what the society does and what these buildings for, and then we continue with the building itself.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori Nickerson, and I'm the Executive Director of Parksville Lions Housing. Parksville Lions Housing have been providing housing for Parksville for over 50 years. We have housing for seniors, for families, and for persons with disabilities. We currently have 5 buildings in Parksville, and this is our new project that we are hoping to have move forward. This project will be for families and persons with disabilities and low-income seniors or persons on income assistance. We are hoping to get this project starting in early the next year. Funding from BC Housing announcement, we have fingers crossed that we will hear at the end of this month. So I think our planning team has done a great job in putting this together. We've been working with the city for quite some time. This is also a project that is being built on city land, and we are getting a lease for the land to build this affordable housing project. So we hope that you will consider what we hope to build, and Darush and Kate will be able to answer any questions technically.
Thank you, Lori. Madam Chair, the project we're presenting, as Lori mentioned, is basically city owns land, which donated for the projects. The orange line, it shows the outline of the property. As you've seen, there's almost 80% is treed, and also a big portion of city's land in front of that, facing the Franklin Road, is also lots of trees there, which is gonna be remain. Which one is not working? No, it's. Oh. Let me get the touch one. Okay. So this is another basically outline, shows that we are right in beside the Island Highway and Northwest Bay, North Bay Road, basically in the east side, and some neighborhood in over there. The recently property rezoned for CD 36, which is exactly same project. We have to rezone the property because it wasn't zoned for residential building. Couple of pictures showing the basically intersection is all trees as there. This is from another corner. Again, going around the property, there is a plaza right behind the property, which is Serious Coffee there. And as we showed, these are the in North West Bay Road. The residential is very covered with the trees, and it is not really exposed to those residential area. The main basically grade level, we are entering from Northwest Bay Road for parking. Mainly the main floor is the parking, couple of the outside amenity space, bike room, mechanical, electrical, basically vestibule and elevator. We have a couple of accessible parking stalls right there to go in, and then garbage enclosure. Very typical floors. I'm not going to spend too much on the floor plan, but the projects consist of the mostly 1 and 2 bedrooms and a couple of the 3 bedrooms, as Lori already mentioned. Building facade is primarily we are building with the cementish hardy panels and planks. They are all white and black corrugated metal. We just showing the 3 biggest trees in the front, but as I mentioned before, there is lots of trees in here. Majority of the building elevation gonna be behind the trees, but we need to show the basically how building looks like. That's why we a little bit layer down the vegetation. And yeah, that's all 3 sides of the building. Again, the recently is rezoned from 436 to CD 36. We are not looking for any variance here. We are below the lot coverage, all meeting the setbacks, and building height also lower than allowed half meters. And bike, we are also meeting all the required parking and bike storage room. With this, I guess if for architectural, if there is any question, I can wait for landscape also answer, and then we can respond to any question if comes.
Thank you, Dariush, and thank you, panel members, for your time and attention here today. Let's see, we'll go ahead. There we go. So it's a fairly straightforward landscape design. We have a small site, and our goal was just to maximize the space we did have available, really with as many plants as we could. We've pulled, the plant palette is really pulled from our local ecology, the coastal Douglas fir ecosystem. and it's almost all native plants. I threw in some blueberries just because I think they make beautiful accents in the fall, and they're also something we can eat. So that's sort of a nice added element. The site, as Dariush pointed out, so we have a pedestrian access off of Northwest Bay Road, and we can come into our building to the main entrance here. That path is lit with low bollard lights for visibility. And then that entrance carries on and connects through to the Island Highway. So this is our main pedestrian connection to the project. At the front entry, we have a couple of short-term bike racks. And then over here towards the highway, we have the main bike storage. So easy bikes coming into that area from both directions. The property, we're utilizing sort of green infrastructure, so bioswales to help manage the stormwater on site. These are great because I can plant them up with a lot of different plant material. And so we have that on either sides of the building. I've also included, because this development will have a range of ages living in it, a little bit of fun play integrated into that bioswale, and an opportunity for anyone who is more able to immerse themselves a little bit in that swale. So we have logs and rocks just in that sort of end bit. And then around this side, the Island Highway side, we had enough space to put in a couple little common seating areas. The intent is that they're fully sort of embraced and closed by the vegetation that we are proposing for the site. And then the only fencing we are proposing is along this property line here, which is that other commercial unit. And we have proposed a black chain link fence, and that is a client requested a feature because of the cost, maintenance, and long-term durability of that type of fence. And I actually think it's a great fence for the plants that I'm putting in, because I still have light and air, and then those plants become visible to that adjacent property. And it is anticipated over time that fence will just disappear, especially because it's a black chain link fence. So I'm just gonna that just shows a few of the details of what's happening. And I wanted to just highlight the planting plan so you can see we really are layering in the plants. It's a fully planted from ground cover to medium story shrubs to small trees to larger trees. And yeah, like I said, we've incorporated almost all native plant species. So just really excited about this little project and the opportunity to sort of max out the small spaces we do have. I think that will be all. I'll go show that there. So happy to answer any questions as well. Thank you. Mhm.
Never get this. I'll never learn how to do this. My voice is loud.
That's
When you have the path running along here, it's a paved path, am I
Yes,
correct?
correct.
And it goes as far as the door of the building, and then it goes further along.
I'm going to go back here just so
Sorry.
it's clear. Come on. There we go.
There we go.
Yes.
And then it goes further along, and it looks like there's a path down to the Island Highway. Am I correct?
Correct.
And is that a slope, or is it a gradual slope, or is it quite a significant slope?
No, it's a good question. I don't think there is any, it's an accessible slope. And if it's not,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
very flat. Yeah. So
okay,
if ideally it's under 5%, which
Oh,
is what
okay,
we would
that's
aim
great.
for.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
My other question is there any access on the other side? You were telling us about the fence.
Yeah.
Does the Lions Club want any kind of access to the plaza above this above this development?
There is no access, and so that's intentional. I don't know if
Right.
you want to speak to that other than that. This is how we want the site to be
Okay.
accessed for some
Okay.
security.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. So there is pedestrian. I like that you put a lot of trees on here. How many of the trees that are there now will remain?
Oh, yes, I can show you. Hang on. And I don't remember the numbers.
No, no,
That's
just,
okay, but I'm going to show you. Oh, it's not on there. Okay, never mind. I was going to show you the tree management plan. Did you have the numbers? Yeah. Yeah.
16. $54 down, 16 left.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sorry, it's not in that presentation.
yeah,
And so we are cutting down what we have to cut down for the development to happen.
right,
And anything we don't have to, we are saving
okay.
and preserving.
And what, has there been an arborist on site to make sure the trees that are left?
Yes, we are following the proper process. We have a number of, I think who's doing VI trees. And then we also had the qualified environmental professional who's involved
Okay,
as well.
right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes. But it is we do our best.
Of
It's a
course
small
you do.
site.
It's a very small site. No, it's, and you were very constrained with the
Yes.
3 roads. I
Yes.
understand.
And that's why we're putting
And
back
you've
a
done a
number
really
of
good
trees.
job. That's great.
Yes.
I just want to make sure the trees that are there aren't going to fall down in the next week.
No, that will all be carefully monitored. There will have to be arborists
Exactly.
assurance around the whether a tree is hazardous or not.
Okay.
Because
Good, thank you.
okay, good.
Oh, sorry. Your log area at the far area, you said it's got some kind of a natural logs, etc. I take it that it's not accessible at that point.
No, and so here, let me go back. The swale, no, so here you can see I've put in stepping stones and logs to cross the swale.
Right.
So that is not accessible for someone that would be in a wheelchair.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the far end there where you said there were benches and
Oh, yes,
logs and
yes.
things like
So
that.
the logs are here, sorry. And then our benches are in this common area. So this one is accessible from the main pedestrian walkway. And then we have this common area, which is accessible from the parking lot. You see right here?
Yep,
And then we have a maintenance and secondary path connecting the two.
got it.
Yeah.
And that path is also accessible.
This stepping stone path would not be.
Not
I
be.
could make it, but then I'd have less plant material. So it
No,
was
I
like
get
a
it.
toss up for me.
Okay,
Which
I
way to
just
do
want to
it.
know how people get around the site
Yes.
because it's for disabled
Yes,
people.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the primary route is that pedestrian route here into this common area, and then it's from the parking lot
Right.
to that common area. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but we can,
No, no, you know me, I'm all over it.
Well, actually, and to be honest, that was part of our saving trees strategy as well, because there's a couple trees we're trying to save at that back end. And if
Oh,
I
good.
put in a path
You'll
that's
use
paved,
them.
I think it would compromise them, but we'll see.
see.
Yeah.
That's good, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
I've got one question. So the only lighting bollards are on the, I guess, the south side, right? Along that path?
Yes, and we do have, sorry, I didn't point them out in each little common area.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
and then there will be, is there a recessed lighting in the parkade?
There's a ceiling lighting.
Ceiling lighting. So the parkade is well lit.
Get to the parkade later. And also that the
Yeah.
entrance to the parkade that, this is 3 visitor stalls probably, but there's lighting there, right?
Let me,
It's a different form of
I'll
lighting.
just go back. Yeah. Yes. Correct.
Yeah. So that wouldn't be a landscape item. That would.
No, that's why we just have the bollard lighting because the parking covers the whole bottom of the
Yeah, no,
building and it's.
I'm talking about the
yeah.
entrance to the parking as
Right
you
here.
pull off as you pull
Yeah.
in from Northwest Bay Road.
We,
Presumably that's lit by other forms. of
yes,
lighting.
I would assume by here, do you? I'll let,
I'm not sure if there is in your package or not. There is a electrical drawing
No.
shows the lights for garbage bin area as well as the entrance.
No,
for the parking.
there's no electrical drawings.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect it there to be one, but
There is already design for it and it will
Yeah.
be, yes. And yeah, it's with the taller lights to
right.
brightening the entrance and garbage bin area.
Any consideration for any other type of fencing at the back aside from black chain link? I'm not a big fan of chain link.
yeah, but
It's cost.
yeah, it's about cost and maintenance, but to be honest, I'm not like the plants will come through and that fence will really disappear into the landscape, which I think is a positive thing. Whereas if we had a solid cedar fence, you wouldn't see that landscape from the adjacent property. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Is it too expensive to put a fence with the black fencing, aluminum or whatever it is, steel fencing, little posts on top so nobody can climb over it?
Yes, that is considerably more expensive than the black chain link. And if that adjacent property is a commercial property, not a residential.
Right.
So I feel this is an appropriate response. If it was residential, I think we would maybe look at what can we do. Yeah.
Okay.
But I do think we're offering a really nice landscape edge and that will be seen by maintaining this fence.
I'm sorry, I forget some people's names. Are you finished questions?
Yes.
Okay, questions?
If anything, not a lot of questions. I think it looks like a good development. One piece that stands out for me is just the entrance to the building being along a long, narrow path. Has there been consideration about wayfinding and how people will find the entrance to the building? And just, coverage and that kind of thing, because it seems like you'd have to go down a very long path to get there.
Yes, that is a very good question, and usually when we start projects, we look at that. But we were very restricted with the BC housing programs and the efficiency. Basically, the property is very tight, as you've seen. We are sitting in setbacks in almost 3 sides, just Northwest Bay. We have a little bit room there. Yeah, we could have for instance, having the entrance in the one end closer to the island highway to be more present. But the reality is most of the people, they're gonna drive and they're gonna come from other end and they have to go all the way end. And then when using the elevator, you have for the end unit, you have to walk all the way to the end. With the going all the back and forth with the our options, we felt that center area is the best. When you're coming out, you see the trees, basically more protected. It's busy road in the island Northwest. We intentionally selected to be in the middle where more quiet. Is not ideal, but we don't have a wall in our side. It's basically tree area. Walking through the trees and going there is we feel is going to be pleasant experience, not the bad one.
Okay, and then in terms of lighting, and I see there is bike parking at the entrance. I'm wondering if there's a way that lighting can be like some way that if people are coming from one way or the other, that they would know where the entrance is or how that's been marked.
For sure, we will have a building attached to the building, lights around the basically entrance
Mhm.
to show them at least with the light. Yeah.
Is the bike parking at the entry, it's not undercover?
Just 3-1. The first 3-1 is not
Yeah.
covered, but the rest they all covered.
All covered.
Basically, from stairs to the left, everything is covered underneath the building.
Okay. That was my main question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm presumably we'll be discussing the architectural drawings?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, are we,
If you have, if you have questions regarding that, though, this is the time. Because we just basically, we'll go around the table for
oh, I
questions.
see.
So
So,
if you have questions regarding the architectural
Okay.
details.
do you have questions regarding architectural?
I have a number or a couple of questions, Darush, you know. The balconies that you're showing on here, are they going to have a glass front or are they it looked like they were having a black front in some of the pictures
The
and yet,
proposed the railing is a picket railing. So we're coming, yeah, picket railing, again, for mostly the suggestion came from staff to be frosted glass railing, but because the society concern if we are hiding there, people, they're gonna put the stuff there. They want it to be transparent.
right,
They wanted to see, and there is restriction.
okay,
On
on
the,
what they can put on the balcony?
yes,
Okay.
that's correct. That's why we selected to be picket.
The other thing you indicated is that you have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom and 3 bedroom units. How many 3 bedroom units?
Three,
Three,
yes.
3 3 bedroom units. So I would think that those would probably go for families if it's a 3 bedroom unit. And if it's low income, which is anyone who has more than one child is low income as far as I'm concerned. But what I want to know is there a play area or somewhere for those children other than the swale and the log area? For them, some grass that they can kick a ball around in or something like that?
The properties is so small.
I know it's
yeah,
tight.
so
I know
tight.
it's tight.
But there is an opportunity, actually, we did early on in the projects, we discussed with the city if we can to have some programming in this area, which is city's land.
Yes.
It's for budgeting items, we don't know, it's still, we do have a budget or not, but for sure there is opportunity to create something
Some area.
for
the
for
kids.
activity for kids in the
Good,
property.
thank you.
You're welcome.
My other question is, I was recently at Hustwick. Is that what it's called? Hustwick? If you can do a job on this building as well as you have done a job on Hustwick, this is going to be a great building because I was very, very impressed with it. I was impressed that you had accessible units in that building. How many accessible units do you have in this building that are in fact completely accessible?
Yeah, the 20% of the project buildings, units, they're gonna be accessible. And then 100% they are adaptable. So
They're
20%,
adaptable.
yes, 20% fully accessible
Yep.
and 100% will be adaptable. If there needs more, they can go and just, I mean, the washrooms, everything designed for accessibility, but the kitchen cabinets,
Right.
they have to be at
Regular.
like
regular kitchen
20% in
cabinets.
beginning of the
Right,
project will be accessible as required by.
right. At Hustwick, they have a number of, I think they have 3 or 4 completely accessible units and the rest are adaptable. I believe that's right.
Yeah.
As I said, if you do as good a job there as you've done, as good a job here as you've done there, I'll be satisfied. I would live there. Yes, I have been there. Yes. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, so I'm just going by the guidelines, okay, so a couple of things, coming back to the balcony railings. It's just my bias, I don't like picket railings, I like tempered glass clear. So that's just my preference.
Yeah.
I think it looks cleaner on a building. The roof structure. Now, the guideline refers to sloped roof. You have a flat roof. Perhaps you could consider kind of a low sloping roof at either end or something like that. I've seen that on some buildings.
Uh, The comment I have to say is we are working on the budget, basically BC housing projects. We have to meet a step 3 code, the project. There is lots of sustainability on the building, which costs to do those things.
Right.
And BC building code recently changed, went to 100% and then reduced to 20% accessibility and other stuff. That's why we are in the actually industrial area. We are in the entrance to the city where not much single family seen in the, either side of the street. That's why we went with the flat roof. Yes, it can have a minor slope roof type of thing, but these are some costs.
No, I
associated.
understand the cost implications, and I don't particularly have a bias against a flat roof. I'm just
I do.
looking at the guidelines and just wondering. And also whether the roof form is sort of you adequately enhancing sort of rain screening and protection from wind and rain, that sort of thing. I mean, sometimes you see a greater overhang in some areas.
The property is well covered with the trees. We do have a big overhang, especially at the entrance area. This is actually 4-story type of the height for the entrance. We put the opening at the roof to draw more light, natural light to come down. So yeah, we can extend overhang. Right now it's standard 3 feet.
Okay.
It can be a little bit longer.
Okay. And in terms of the finishes, I like hardy. I mean, as a rule, I mean, but because the guidelines emphasize wood, perhaps is the hardy plank, is that kind of the hardy plank lap with the
Yes.
wood grain kind of?
They
Yeah,
do have a
cedar.
wood
Yes.
grain. They do have a wood grain. They looks like
Yeah,
a
it
wood,
looks,
but
that's, yeah. I
and
like-
they
I
have
like
a
that.
finishes guaranteed for 20 years. So
Yeah,
it's not gonna fade.
no, it's a great product. It's
Yeah.
a great product. I'm not a particular fan of, you said it is corrugated metal?
Yes.
So the profiles that
There is
Industrial.
lots of different profile.
it's not a seam panel. It's just, it's actually corrugated, right?
It's corrugated. That's the most used one. That's the one we
Yeah,
proposing. That's actually used in the residential more often. Those one, they have a very sharp corner. They are more industrial looks, which we are not going
yeah,
with that.
yeah. Not a particular fan of metal cladding on residential buildings, but it depends on what planning tells you they want to do. And in terms of parking, the guidelines are underground or concealed parking. Since it's above grade unconcealed parking, I would suggest you conceal it and enclose it. Because I know there's a cost factor. I understand all that. But it's just, you're going to have security issues. You're going to have, weather issues, stuff blown in. You're going to have light pollution at night. So, I think it's far preferable to enclose it.
For the light, basically pollution, usually what we do, we put some sort of the apron with the 3 piece of the metal is basically cover the top to make sure the lights not go around. In terms of the security, I not agree regarding the closing. They will give us the more security. When it's open, is actually more visible for everybody, is more secure. It's similar to even in the Vancouver high rises, they raise the building, the bottom, they clear out to basically to get the more feeling of the green space. You see the green from all other side and don't feel the, the box basically drop there. I feel the closing that you're creating the lots of concrete wall, which they are not pretty one, and is also not going to increase the security on that one.
You can dress up that wall quite nicely, but
It can
I
be.
th- I think security is going to be an issue.
It's one other issue on that regard is actually our parking is not fully matched with the floor above. There is the spilling some parking right underneath that roof. So you see that this is the line of the upper floor coming and go. If you have to do, you have to build a bigger, basically, box in the bottom in order to this properly to sit in top and also cover your all parking. And I think is make the building more heavier. This is project light, modern, and I think is, in my view, more secure than the closing off.
Those are my comments.
Just to move forward off of that comment, I mean, I actually prefer buildings where parking is at the first level like this. I think it creates some permeability on the site and also offers some views to the landscape. So in my perspective, I actually like that it's open, and then people can, if there it creates more movement around the site versus being so enclosed. One thing I wonder about a little bit is just the energy modeling for the project. The trees are shown as quite tall, but as we know, the world is sort of heating up. And so I noticed there's not a lot of sun shading or things like that on a lot of the south facing windows. So that could be a reason why you might want to explore extending some of the overhangs, making sure the balconies are well protected, that kind of thing. Mostly for overheating. I'm assuming you have an energy model for the project, so.
Yeah, we did the energy model already on the projects, and the way they do their work is actually they do not consider any trees because trees are not always there. So they do not consider any tree. Basically, they work as it is. We sometimes in the project, we find out we have to add the extra overhang over the window, even not the top of the ceiling is not going to even help, or put the side wall beside the window. In this case, we did not need any of those.
Okay.
We are already meeting a step 3 code. If we go for higher, we may need, but there's overhanging. I like that is a really good effect in the building. I think easily we can add another foot for the, the depth and make it actually nicer looking building, in which help energy modeling too.
Yeah, and then, I mean, in terms of the finishes, I find the black and white quite stark, but I understand the area that it's in, and I think the landscape will help soften that. Overall, my question would be less about the materials themselves. Hardy kind of is what it is. It needs to be repainted every so often. I'm actually not a fan of Hardy as much as possible and would prefer something softer, especially for residential. However, what I would comment on mostly, I don't see anything regarding signage for the building or anything like that. And what gives this building an identity so that it's not every other building, residential building.
Yeah.
So somebody who's arriving here feels like this is my home, this is my building, this is the identity of this building. And so I think that that could be something that could be explored a little bit further, whether that's through some sort of interesting signage, or maybe it's a piece of art that goes on one of the walls that actually gives the building an identity, because right now it sort of has this black and white box appeal.
I think it's very great comment.
Yeah.
We will try to address that one.
And same thing at the lower level, maybe there's a way that some of the walls could have some art, or maybe some colorful, brick tiles or something like that, so that when people are walking along to that long entry, maybe there's a wayfinding that guides them there, or something that's kind of fun or playful or colorful that gets added in, because the black and white provides a really beautiful backdrop. But to add something else that's a bit of a surprise might be a nice touch just for residents to feel like they're at home rather than in a black and white building.
So, yeah, originally my idea was to having these basically the closed areas like stairs or to be wood tone siding, basically similar to wood. But yeah, we can for sure play with those ones.
Yeah, there's some large facades that you might be able to play with to do something so that people can kind of find their way there if they're looking for it and they're looking for the entry. So that's probably my biggest concern with it right now is that it's almost there, but it needs a bit more of an
Yeah,
identity.
maybe some, this is the area basically setbacks and come back and we have opening at the ceiling. Maybe we can do something in these walls, basically in 3 walls to bring it up more.
Yeah, it might just be the renders, but the end walls also seem like they have some opportunity where they're coming around the corners where vehicle or pedestrians would actually see. Specifically, yeah, in that area, and then on the opposite side, there might be an
Sure.
opportunity to bring in some color or some playfulness there.
Sure.
That would be good.
Yeah,
And
these
specifically on this side as well.
Yeah, this side will become less visible because it's not facing to the people that were coming and going. But yeah, I agree. We cannot just do one side. We should do 2 sides. Yeah, we will work on the color flat as long as client okay with that. We'll
I've
add
seen-
some identity to the building.
Yeah, I've seen lots of fun examples using signage or giving the
Yeah.
building a name or something
Sure.
like that, that all of a sudden
Yeah.
it has a name. Okay.
What's its name? Hoffman House. Oh, I know him well, actually. Yes,
Yeah. We
Very
can have
nice.
something over there.
I took care of his aunt.
And we'll see, yeah. Thank you for coming.
Mary? Sorry.
Thank you. I have a question regarding the landscaping plan. I do love that 16 trees can be saved and presumably some of those are substantial, which is great. And the number of trees planted. I was just curious now if with the updated gardening zones and climate change and warming, does that affect your thoughts about what you might be planting and what's native now? Is that going to be fine going forward? So I'm just curious about thoughts on that.
Sure, I'd be happy to comment. I'm not worried with what we have put in. And because of the variety of plant material, things will find some may do better than others. And so I'm confident. But most importantly, we have put in the Gary oak tree as one of our species. I'm pretty sure I did. Now that I'm saying that, I've had so many projects. I hope I don't. I'm not. No, I'm confident. Yes. And anywhere we can put in, the oak is the most climate resilient tree you can plant. So wherever you are in the world, you find your native oak and that's what you plant. So that's what we're doing. If that's helpful.
Oh, that's very
And we
helpful.
haven't,
It
and
makes,
yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but
Eh.
to that point, we don't have cedars and that's because it's harder for us to grow our cedars when we don't have a really wet site condition.
well, and I personally, I love the thought that there are blueberry plants. I do think they're very attractive. And as you say, you can also eat things. So that's a bonus. Also, I would love to see deciduous trees, which give us, of course, lovely shade if they're real shade trees in the summer, and also lose their leaves to give us extra light in the winter. You know, too many evergreens, I think, can become quite depressing at times. Also, I gather, I'm sorry, I didn't hear one little bit, the chain link fence, that's what along, it will be black, is that correct? So I think that will be great. They just kind of disappear, you know, when you're looking at them. And as you say, be great for the plants that are growing there. And who knows what's going to be eventually developed on the other side there. So I think that sounds like great screening. I had a couple of questions. One regarding bicycles. I wonder, is there any thought or a plan for having a bike repair station as part of that? You know, and they're really quite simple. You know, hang up your bike and you have a few things right there on it. Would be very helpful. And one
Yes.
might be able to get a grant somewhere to put
Yeah,
one
we
in.
don't
I
have
don't know.
it in the drawing yet, but a client already will require that. Yes, we will consider that some location for some repair and yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased to hear that. Something else I'm just wondering about with the particularly with the pedestrian egress. And I understand why they're not going to go directly into the adjacent property. I actually know this property quite well. My running group often meets there to go for a run. But so coming out to the Island Highway, is there a plan for any kind of a sidewalk or bollards or anything along there? I know that's a huge expense, or I'm looking over here at Sarah. Or, and the other side on Northwest Bay Road, that's kind of an awkward bit because there's a ditch beyond that, you know, beside the Telus property there. And there's a bit of a sidewalk on the other side of the road, but I'm just curious, like what's the pedestrian safety like along either of those roads?
Usually the property owners, they are responsible for the frontage work. So our frontage road is at the Island Highway is just from that sidewalk up and in other side between the two property. And I think that's what we have to do. It's not like our choice to do it. But the very bottom one is Franklin Gull Road. Is the city's property, and we did look at the actually upgrading there, and it is very big budget required, and I'm afraid it's not going to fit in the BC housing, and we're hoping the city can somehow do some work in their own property and basically create that corner nice sidewalk, continuous type of thing. Otherwise, it is, as you see, this area is, is that not showing up there? It is very big. I did just measured from here to intersection. It was 75 feet long, just this portion to connect to the intersection. It is. I'm assuming it's going to be like 400 more feet of the sidewalk upgrading. So we have to do the upgrading in this both end, but this side, I afraid is not going to be fit in the project budget.
I can appreciate the challenge there, and I think it's going to be you know, an ongoing challenge for a bit of time,
Yeah.
and thinking about, you know, getting access to the bus stop, which is a little further along past Heritage Plaza. So whichever way, there is a sidewalk of sorts across on Northwest Bay Road, across on the other side. I'm aware of that one. And presumably people will go over to the museum, which, by the way, beyond has a bit of a play area. And also beyond that, at the visitor center, beyond that, there is Rotary Park, which has additional space to go. I mean, you wouldn't be sending children over there by yourself, but at the same time, there will be some additional access, public access through there. Yeah. I have one other question, but it's
Sure.
gone out of my head. I'm sorry.
We can come back.
Oh, yes, I recall. I know that during the public hearing, there really were a lot of concerns and wishes that the balconies would have the frosted glass. And so I think people were hoping and expecting that. So is that something that's completely out of the picture? Or could it even be, I mean, it might look a bit odd if on one side there was frosted glass, on the other not. I could see going with the black picket on the one, the side that faces Franklin's Gull, but the side that's going to look onto the back of some commercial property or other, is there any possibility it could be the frosted tempered glass there?
I think for sure we can review it again with the team. Last time we did review, client has a concern about the transparency to seeing the balconies. And also from our contractor side, they were concerned about the cost. But we can review that one. I'm not promising yes or not, but I'm promising we will review, and if there is a way, we will do it.
Hi.
Hello.
Try to make myself audible. This is my first time on this panel, but I've been on other panels. So I'm just going to go over this in a kind of more detailed way because I want to understand that we've got a document here and we're treating it very much like a gray area.
Okay.
Right. So I've got 10 points where it's not conforming. I have 10 points where this project is not conforming. So I'm just going to ask a few questions.
Sure.
On number 3, it talks about a 20-meter wide strip to the highway that is required. And that has not been mentioned and nobody's been, you know, we're ignoring it. So I just kind of measured it, and it's the other big tree that's being cut is just at that 20-meter line. So it would have been possible to keep the tree. So I'm just going to, let me take a step back. The maximum allowed on this property is 36 units and the area and all of that. By the way, there's an error on here. You said 60%, the maximum is 50%. You're under it, but it says 60% on here, so that's not correct.
But still we are below.
Yeah, you're still under it. But so the way I look at it is to say, well, there's this allowance, which is a maximum, but it's not necessarily a right. There are other parameters which then create a modification of that. So when I see a project like this, I see somebody saying, I treat this 36 as a right to have this much. And the other rules, the other parameters that may be in place are treated as optional. So I don't know how Parksville does this, but what I'm seeing here is things that make 36 units or this square footage possible with variances. But as it is, it's contradicting the regulation. In terms of the 20-meter limit, like if you push in 20 meters, then you can't do the building as it is. So the first thing I have to know is, are we going to just ignore it? That's up to everybody here, right? But it's a question on the table for me.
If you might, I can
Sure.
answer that one. The process at any municipality is, I've been in the many years of the members of this society in here, Nanaimo and other municipalities. First, they come to the design panel for review and form and character, but also goes to the engineering department and all other departments. That 20 meters, I didn't know were up, but if that's the requirement, the engineering department will come back with the comprehensive letter and mentioning that one, which I'm assuming 20 meters, you're talking about the setback from island highway.
It literally says that, yeah.
Do you mind if I step in there, Yush? Okay, so in the development permit area guidelines, I think under section 3B is what you're referring to. Yeah, so the development permit guidelines suggest that there should be tree strips in the area, allowing a 20-meter tree buffer along the island highway and 20 meters along Northwest Bay Road. So we sort of look at the guidelines from a different perspective in that there's the should or the shall, which I think we touched a little bit on in orientation. So should, when there's the language of should in a guideline, it's sort of up for interpretation and discussion. Typically, given the size and the constraints of this property, if you were to have a 20-meter buffer on those two sides, you'd have very limited building area. And I think like with I'm just thinking of another one too, 1180 Resort, when that one was done and considered, it also is within the same development permit area guideline. And with that one, because there were no trees on the site, I think it was considered that it would be a 10-meter wide buffer with substantial replanting within that 10-meter buffer area. So it's really up to the sort of council to determine if it meets the guidelines, but you can of course make suggestions as to whether, you know, there's a good effort in order to plant some of those trees within the buffer along the frontages.
Okay. I'm just asking because I'm looking at what I'm seeing and I don't know all of the history and certainly not the internal discussions. So I'm thinking of that also in conjunction with the fact there will be a lot of children here. And there's an argument for leaving space on the site. There's also an argument for somehow using the adjacent city property, which is it's a little forest, right? It's very dense and there's a lot of stuff going on there that could be integrated somehow, and it will be. Kids will be running around in there maybe. Okay, question number one. Number two is the idea of going back to point number one with the roof slope, but not only the roof slope, but the whole intention behind creating these kind of strategic parameters. They're actually taking a context and then abstracting, as you know, right? They're abstracting a few key points to try and hope to instill a similar character, right, to the area. This building doesn't really have the area's character. If you say industrial, we've heard the argument of like it's an industrial area, so we'll just have residences that look more industrial. But it's not really an industrial area. If we know industrial, I mean, it's transforming to residential, like in droves, really fast. So my question is, you know, in general, I don't personally see a real sincere development of the character of this place. I see a similar building in Qualicum. I see these buildings popping up everywhere and they're their own thing. They're not really contextual. So I'm not really asking a question in the sense of like changing it a little bit, but you've got metal siding. It says no metal, please. It says there's no should here. It says metal and vinyl are discouraged, right? So you're encouraging something that's discouraged and you're not making a sloped roof. And there's no argument that says that it's not possible here. It is possible. And it's not so much a matter of, to my mind, it's a matter of like choices. So I'm questioning again, we have this parameter and we're flatly ignoring it. I mean, it's just completely saying this is discouraged and we're doing it. So we're doing it. So no slope, exterior finish is different. A response to context, well, the building is the same on all the sides, even though we have a forest on one side, which is probably going to stay there for a long time. Nobody's going to cut it down. So I'm hoping that there's still flexibility to integrate these ideas better. That I'm one chair here, I'm not everybody, but from my point of view, I'd definitely like to put that on the table, that there's 10 items here which this building does not respond to in terms of what's hoped for. And the building is just doing what it would do anywhere else. It's not actually necessary to be this way. It is just the way it would be if it was sitting pretty much anywhere. So I would hope for a little more context. I could go deep, sorry, I could go deeper into making suggestions, but I'm not doing that right now. No. For number one? I could just name the other ones that I'm thinking of. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm not as young as you are, so I do forget things. So in terms of the buildings to be belong to the areas, the area is under development and is nothing really anchored the area at that corridor you're going at the moment. There is none anchoring the area. The guidelines is guidelines. And I do not agree the buildings should not be same everywhere. If they are similar buildings, same program, and for same reason, there is no issue to be similar looks, not exactly copy pasting is disgusting. I do not like that at all. But it's similar fashion is not the bad thing to happen to in Qualcomm Beach or Parksville or Nanaimo or even Vancouver. So this is a very quite simple building for just who needs the homes to go in. And they need to build based on the standards required by BC Housing and BC Building Code, and also follow the guideline as much as you can. Yeah, I also do not agree to building the apartment with the pitch roof everywhere. Slope roof, yes, I did many of them in this Parksville already. A couple of them is done. It's actually done by me as well. But yeah, a slope, but we are looking for overall program. It's any basically recommendation come from these meetings. As I said, I've been in these meetings. We do recommend and we push as hard as we can to get the basically things match with the art society as possible. So, but as there is lots of parameters, lots of the things control our environment, and some things is possible, some things is not possible. So this project is not selected yet by BC Housing. It's submitted a month and a half ago, and by end of September, based on the budget, based on the point they're hitting, they may or may not select it. But we have to be on the budget in order to be close to be selected. So yes, we can change the roof line to make it a slope little bit like similar other stuff. I'm talking about the minor slope, like 4% slope. I'm not talking about the pitch roof or anything, because that's not, I think, is suitable for this project. I hope I answered some of your questions.
Okay. I think a 4% slope doesn't really meet the need. I think I'm here to talk and to be part of a panel that represents what the city is doing. I hear everybody being conciliatory. I mean, we're talking about benches and stuff, when for me, there's a bigger picture here that has to be addressed. Like, what kind of quality are these buildings going to have? One of the things that I also wanted to mention is that when you're coming in from the highway, this is the first big building you're going to see right now. This is the first one. So it's a question as to what Parksville, when people are coming in and you're coming into this resort area and you're confronted with a building that, well, it's behind some trees, which is a low level, improvement. Say, I got a building, but it's behind some trees, so it's okay if you don't agree with that building. If you don't agree with the building, I'm saying only if you don't agree. If you agree with the building, it's fine.
Okay.
So obviously I don't agree with the building, so
Okay.
that's clear.
Okay.
But
That's,
I wanted to just point out those elements for people here, the way I see them. So a few I've already mentioned. The other one that I was going to talk about is the whole idea that the east-west and the various orientations, and it is north, it's cardinally orientated building. So it's going to get the low sun in the mornings and the evenings and not much of the south sun because of the ends. So the concern there is not so bad in terms of summer and summer heat coming in from the sun and all of that. That's a good orientation. But the sides orientation is very strongly affected by the sun coming and going in the mornings, and trees on one side. And the building is basically the same on all sides. So it's being affected very differently on all four sides, and it's all the same, basically. So this asks for a response to the environment, and it doesn't, you're not doing that. And then the last one I wanted to mention is, I don't think I want to go into too much detail, but the whole concept of like bringing in more energy efficiency, like we're making the building efficient just in how it's built passively. But it is not going so far that you actually see that happening. So what we're doing is modifying standard construction to be as efficient as possible. We're not actually taking a design from the ground up and saying, this is going to be a building that responds to the times. So I wanted to just put it down that this building is not taking seriously our current situation, except for it's providing a lot of housing. That's important. And that this code asks for that. And what we're doing is modifying standard construction so that it's as efficient as possible. But conceptually, we're not going there. And it's just part of this design. And that's what you've chosen to do. And that's what your client has asked for, possibly. So I think that when we're deliberating, that is what we're going to choose. And that's important to recognize that we can go much further and that it's not cutting edge at all. It's already been 20 years. And so that's what this building is going to be if it stays the way it is.
sorry, I did not hear any recommendation on this.
My recommendation would be that there is a way to make this building conform formally, that it's sitting on the ground the way, just flat on the ground, and it, okay, how could I put it? My recommendation is it should have a sloped roof.
No,
And it can
regarding
do-
the efficiency, as you mentioned.
And
what's
the
recommend-
efficiency, okay, the efficiency means solar panels. solar
You're
panels?
Recommending solar panel at
I
the
am.
roof?
I am recommending solar panels because they are easily economical, easily, over a relatively short period of time. I'm recommending rainwater retention. I don't see the actual white rainwater retention that's going on here. There may be tanks or something.
There
Tanks
is.
into the tanks
Biosolar.
to keep it. Right.
We don't have the civil storm connection, but that's the first one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is a huge effort with our site constraints.
With the landscape, which is just a strip. But I'm actually talking about the roofs are bringing down a few 100,000 liters of water every year, and that's not being kept.
Yeah. We did practice this for this capturing on, and that's in the couple of projects. The problem with that cistern capturing the water from the roof drain is when you have these rain, you don't need rain because it's already raining. You don't need this, use it. And by the time is the dry out, these, whatever you capture in the first couple of weeks is gone. And then your summer is long enough is not covered your summer.
Yeah.
And is it keeping that one running is very inefficient. We did use the gray water in Salt Spring, and they are very inefficient and not maintained for duration of the building use. And honestly, I don't see any of these in regarding how relate to the form and character of the building is not. We
No.
do have a different mandate.
True, but it relates to the idea of being environmentally sensitive.
Yeah.
So I brought
And
that
we
in.
are going beyond that City of Parksville required
Okay.
and in terms of the sustainability.
All right.
Would you like any further comment about the rainwater in the landscape and this? or-
I'm fine. I
So
know
were-
how that
You were
works.
looking for water storage to be reused, is
I
that
was
right?
taking it a
Yeah,
step further.
it's unbelievably cost prohibitive and doesn't make
Mhm.
sense because of when we need the rain and when we have the rain.
I'm
yeah.
well aware of that.
Okay. That's not the intent
Yeah,
here
the idea of
to
mentioning,
showboat,
the
but
the idea of mentioning
just-
tanks
yeah,
was because
yeah,
of that.
yeah.
Because of that,
well, and
that time difference.
projects are very constrained by budgets
Mhm.
these days.
Okay.
I think we have to keep that in mind as well, as I would and do. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone. Any more comments? I guess I'll make mine. A couple of things. I would agree that I would like to see more character. I do see too many box-like buildings. Mary and I were just talking about this and seeing more character anywhere here. I'm not an architect. I don't know how you do it, and I don't know how you do it within constraints. Everybody here knows I talk about Fort Langley and their buildings that they did there, and I'm sure they were under budget constraints. It was many years ago, but man, they just developed things. They had such creative ideas that really added to and made it look like it was from a 1940s, but all super modern, of course. I would like to see more character. But that's different from this. And I know we're under tremendous budget constraints, especially on a building such as this one. One thing, because this is going to be mostly for families and persons with disabilities, just to touch on, this is really Maureen's thing, but how many disabled parking spots?
You
Were
have
there?
2 at the moment.
2 at the moment. Should there be more, since this building is being built specifically for people with disability?
Project did not build specifically for disabilities. This is the standard. BC Housing used to have it up to last year, 5% of the unit being disabled for disabilities, and then the rest not. As I said, the BC Building Code changed and then it didn't go through, and they revised it. It was 100% and then changed it to 20% at the moment. Honestly, I do have a great respect for, for people with a disability and providing
Mhm.
home to that. But in our last maybe 20 years, I'm working in this field in Island, and the projects we build, those 5% of the units never filled with those ones. We have Lori here, they have 5 buildings there. We can ask him how many percentage of these are there. I think what the city of Nanaimo required, if you have a 5 accessible unit, you have to put the 5 accessible parking stall.
I
If you
see.
don't have, you have every 120 unit, they should have a 2, and then 100 after 100, you're just adding 1 more. But if there is a more than the possibility to have a more than 2 accessible unit, yes, we can add more parking. But the issue is here, we're adding more accessible parking, we're gonna lose some parking.
Sure.
So it's basically get the extra space. We can check with the Lori, and what is your anticipation of number of the accessible unit used by accessible person?
right now, in all of our buildings, we have one person with mobility. And I think that the person with disabilities does not necessarily need mobility issues. There are
True.
lots of health disabilities. There's lots of other types of disabilities that we house that are not necessarily mobility, which they do not require the larger parking spot or that sort of thing. But they do have disabilities, whether visible or not. So those are the people that may be in this building, which are in all of our buildings.
Mhm.
Who not necessarily, make capacity in this parts of the building. So when we talk about persons with disabilities, when we talk about our buildings, it's a wide range, and so the two parking spots are fine in most of my buildings. We have every building that we have has a fully accessible or several units, and in 150 units, I have one person.
Interesting. Okay. Good to know. Just a note, there's no lawn in this facility, is there? Which I'm thankful for. No in-ground watering? Any in-ground watering? Any
Oh, you cannot install landscape in this climate without irrigation system. However, the plant material that we have chosen, we are hopeful that over, a 3 to 5 year establishment period, we can greatly reduce our need for irrigation.
Right.
Because of what we've chosen. But it's very hard to plant and without to have success planting without irrigation. So if we didn't install an irrigation system, they would have to have irrigation trucks come or some form, which is, another layer. Yeah.
For a few years. Anyway,
Yes.
that lot, I being familiar with it. Now, there are some invasive species there, I think. I think at the one end of it, there's all, will that be
If you
removed,
go-
do you think? Or are you just going to leave that?
Oh, on the city's property?
Yes, it is.
Yes. So it's the city's property.
Got it.
Yes. But I wondered if I could make a comment from the landscape's perspective around character.
Mhm.
I think what is lovely about modern architecture, it really allows a nice soft backdrop for my landscape. And the landscape is rooted in this space and this coastal Douglas fir ecosystem. And it really allows that to be the highlighted feature that grounds us where we're at.
True.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be what everyone's going to notice is that this is a building that has a lush, replanted, perimeter that integrates into the other existing vegetation on the city's lot. So I would encourage you to contemplate that when you contemplate character.
True.
That it's not just a building. It is the plants and the ephemeral aspects of those plants. That's
Okay.
all. Okay.
I appreciate that. And even Wood Tone, West Coast, it's so close to the beach there as well. Rathtrevor's such a big part of that area. So I think the plants, like you say, they tie it to it for sure, especially the Gary Oak and the arbutus and things like that. I like your planting plan, Kate. I always do. I think that's it for me. Mary, another question?
Thank you. Just a couple of further thoughts. One, the city property that is beyond the footprint of the building towards Franklin Gull, as I think our neighbor here mentioned, somebody mentioned, if there are children on site, they will no doubt be going through there and making little trails. And so just a thought that down the road, depending on who is living in the building and how they're using that space, it might be nice to have some split rail fence along there. And yet I realize that's beyond where you are, and that would also be a nice link with maybe the museum doesn't have split rail, but it's something like that. Anyway, I just put that out there so that nobody's just running out onto the road if they are wandering over that way. It looks like you've got a thought there, yes?
I just gonna say, I think that would be a desire, but we are, limited by the project. But that would be a long-term desire if, yeah.
That's what I was thinking as well, but I think that the people who are managing the building, et cetera, will, maybe I just put that out there that that might be something and ask for the city at some point in time if it's needed. The other question I did have is going back to the question about metal on the, was there any consideration for having something other than the metal to, provide a counterpoint with the hardy plank?
For sure, it's there in architecture, there is no just one answer, and there is tons of answers, and even same box is done differently with many architects. So it's a change of the material. There is no issues, and actually we can change. That's not the big things to consider. It's very actually metal cladding is most expensive than other type of the cladding, so it's changing around. It may give us a little bit more, a little bit cost saving to do somewhere else.
And a final comment, just to clarify that it's always been my understanding that this building is conceived to be for workforce housing, which doesn't mean that that would not be people with disabilities, obviously, but not necessarily a primarily senior focus or primarily this. That hopefully it will provide some workforce housing, and yet I'm not sure how they, with how people apply for it, et cetera. That's beyond the scope of this discussion, but I just wanted to share that in case people didn't realize that.
Correct. This is basically affordable housing, is not limited for age or any size of the family. Is basically for, as I understand, for the hospitality sector, as is in the area, is lots of the employment working at that hospitality sectors, and they do need the housing. That's provide them housing.
Can I just make a comment? I didn't make any recommendations because I was just feeling my way into this. I think that the finishes of the building should be readdressed. I would recommend that. And that is not just the finishes. It is the pattern, proportion of how the whole thing is put together in vertical strips, black and white. And I would like to bring the facade, what you would call the edge of the roof that's going around into the picture, because, if you're going to do an edge like that, then it would be better, from my point of view, to remove it completely. Just have the old school where the buildings just go vertical. I know there's issues with climate and so on, but just visually, it's almost better to not have it at all and then put in little rain or light protectors separately, because that's out of proportion and it really creates a very odd looking roof line, roof edge to the building. So just speaking aesthetically, you could do a lot. I think I know what I would do tomorrow, right? I could just do it. But I think I would recommend that has to be readdressed to try and come a little closer to, what we can all feel was intended by these rules. I would recommend that those things be addressed again.
Thank you for recommendation. I assume you're an architect.
I am.
Yes, that's what I thought. One of my lessons I learned in the many design panels sitting there, to just give the recommendation and not do the design for the basically applicant, because that's not was my job. So yes, recommendation is well received. We will work on those one, but the designing of the projects is my job. Is no one else.
Okay, can I just step in for one moment? So I just wanted to remind everyone it's 3:30. So we try to wrap up the meeting by 4, but I recognize we did start a few minutes late. Typically, we did go around the room once, so we usually go around the room a couple times just to allow everyone, in case you have some additional comments to make. And then once everyone's sort of done with their initial comments as a group, you would be discussing what recommendations you're having for the applicant to take home and address as part of their application. So I just wanted to step in and comment on that, and I'll just let you resume your discussions.
Is there, Darush, is there any covering over the door? You come along that long path, and if it's pouring with rain, I'll be running to get, well, I won't be running, but I'll be rolling really fast to get to that area that is got some kind of roof over the top of the door. Oh, okay. 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 Right. Yeah, I can see that. Is it, if I may, when you're going out onto Northwest Bay Road, that's a fairly significant number of people that come down that road because of the resort area, et cetera, or if somebody is wanting to go over, walk down to the beach. Is there any chance that we could be asking the city or someone to be putting in some kind of crosswalk or at least the lines across the road so that people can cross that road safely, especially if there's a lot of children that are living in the building? Is there a crosswalk there? No, I meant at that corner. Is there a crosswalk? Okay, but you would have to still cross the road. Across Northwest Bay Road. Okay. Yeah, it would be nice if there was some safety there because as you say, if there's three bedroom units, I can see that the 3-bedroom units are gonna hopefully go to some people with children. As far as the other, I understand that this is a building that is being built by the Lions Society, and they do not have an infinite amount of money by any stretch of the imagination. And I am sure that this building would be basically what would be afforded. And as you said, you have to come in under budget for BC Housing. So I really do understand that you have to be very conscious of how much you can spend to make this building usable. I mean, we all would like it to have a sloped roof and different colors, but at the same point in time, we have to think about what practically the Lions Club can do to provide housing, low-income housing especially, which is desperately needed in Parksville at this point in time. So it may not be a beautiful building, and it would be lovely if it was, but I think we also have to take into account that these are guidelines only. These aren't rules, they're only guidelines. We're asking you to do the things that we recommend, but it's not necessary for you to do the things that we recommend. We would like this building to meet all of the design guidelines. We definitely would, but I think that the budget will not allow us to put much more into this. There is one thing though, I'm hoping that you can do something with the corners of the building to make it have more presence on the ground, because you've got this opening and it's wide open coming in, but I don't want the building to be floating above the ground. It needs, on those 4 corners, it needs quite something to anchor it, whether that be a different color, because at this point in time, you've just got it as gray hardy plank, and we've got gray hardy plank all over the building. So it would be nice if we had something that would anchor it. It's my recommendation.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any other comments, questions?
I just wanted to add, there are things just from having worked on a number of BC housing buildings that are different in the guidelines to what the BC housing guidelines are. For instance, around durability of materials and things like that, 20 to 50-year lifespan for materials, which sort of pushes you, unfortunately, into this metal hardy board world. It's not perfect, but that is part of what happens sometimes with these buildings. At the same time, I highly recommend that the building develops some sort of identity and potentially considers some sun shading. There are things that we can do that are very small things. The other thing I wanted to add is there's not an amenity space in the building right now, and maybe there's an opportunity, or my recommendation would be to cover one of the outdoor common spaces so that during the rain, there is somewhere that you could meet up with your neighbor or have a coffee or something like that, something that considers the social aspect of how do people actually interact with their neighbors in the building, because there isn't an amenity space right now. As far as I know, unless there is one. Okay. Yeah, so my recommendation would be to create an identity for the building so people can feel like they're coming home to something that they care about and that they love, and to really consider the social spaces here as well. Where can you meet up with your neighbor to have a conversation or a coffee, or are people just living in boxes and they're coming and going? And I think those outdoor spaces, there's two of them. One of them could be covered. It could have a table area. It could have something for children, but something that considers the social aspect of the project and overall just the identity of it, whether that's through colors or whatever it is, because the flat roof, hardy metal cladding, that is what BC Housing asks for. That is what they want in these projects. And it creates a challenge when you have, the desire is one way, but yet you have to meet guidelines to even get in to get funding. So there is a challenge there between you're trying to meet two guidelines, but they're saying different things. And so I see that in what's come up in this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay. We're good. So I think then, recommendations moving forward or looking at is just looking at the, finishing materials, maybe the siding materials, just seeing if there's other options, that would work, that would fit. And then the other thing I heard was the speaking to the amenity space, and I think actually the first one would come under 4H, I think. Multi-unit. One in number 4, one architectural design, and it's 1H. Exterior finishes and colors that are appropriate to the natural heritage of the area. Okay. Right. Okay, so then the architectural design and character. So for the recommendation, I guess 1C. Yeah. C and D. Okay. Thanks, Maureen.
So Christine, I apologize. I think I might have missed a couple of the guidelines that you were highlighting earlier. But I had written down for
I
development
think I
permit.
just had from the wrong section
Okay,
is all. So I was looking at.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
mentioned the amenity space, but I think the amenity space is not under our purview.
well, we can comment on it because it's related to the building landscaping.
Right.
So when we do our advisory design panel recommendations, there's some sample resolutions on page 2 of your book, which were just prepared for your benefit by staff.
Okay.
So we can suggest tweaks to, like, if they're not in compliance with the development permit guideline, we can highlight which one or what the deficiency is. But we can also note if there's other things that aren't captured within the guidelines that maybe you feel should be amended or changed.
So, for example, would it be proper to mention that the amenity space might be better on the side of the building, on the east side of the building rather than on the highway?
Yeah, so you could suggest like some further consideration of the amenity spaces with regards to where they're located or how they're designed. That could be something that you highlight as part of your recommendation.
Okay, so the first recommendation would be to take a second look at siding material. And that was that was 1C and D. And then just a suggestion about the amenity space, that part of something be covered perhaps so that people could gather. And you suggest it be on a different side of the building, on the east side, perhaps. Sure, why don't you comment on that?
Well,
Kate? Or
usually,
Kim?
if we're
Oh.
just, yeah.
Okay, you will discuss, perfect.
If we're having a discussion, we can keep the floor open for discussion, or if you're doing recommendations, once we
We need to
formalize
do
the
the
recommendations, we'll send them to the applicant and they'll have an opportunity to reply to that with giving us revisions or with a response as to perhaps some rationale.
Right. So I think then the only recommendation was the siding. Am I correct? To relook at the siding, perhaps, the materials.
Wall, the elevation, the finishes of the elevation.
Yeah.
and Perhaps address the whole, the layout of that. You know, with the changed material, you would change the patterns perhaps.
Right.
Just because the materials make it different. They have different forces, right? It just works different.
Mhm.
The metal siding is vertical, so it kind of goes up and down. And
Mhm.
Other materials have a different pattern.
A different, yes.
Say instead of siding, say wall exterior finishes.
Okay, the exterior finishes.
Do you mind maybe summarizing that for me? Because we have to make sure that staff are recording your recommendations correctly. So
Okay,
I have that you're recommending to take a second look at
exterior,
in relation to the development permit area guidelines 1C and 1D to reconsider siding material. And what were some of those other elements?
well, and perhaps look at something other than metal, I think was the recommendation. But it sounds like metal is what falls under the BC housing, so that may not be. Okay, how about just recommend a relook at the siding material, at the finishing.
In my mind, it's not about the metal, it's about giving the building an identity of some kind. So I'm wondering if that could be captured in the comment. I know that that's not directly relating to the design guidelines, but overall, it's the fact that it's black and white, it's very similar. You're saying it's the same finish on all 4 sides of the building. And what is really giving it, it needs something.
It needs something, and I think it says that right in, in C, exterior finishes should emphasize the use of wood and stone. Metal, stucco and vinyl finishes are discouraged. So I think if we just even.
She's
leave it at
referring
that.
also to, she's been referring to identity and location, I would call them location keys, so that when you see this place, you really feel like there's something there that associates you with your life,
Mhm.
more powerfully than now. And I think that integrates with the idea of looking at the exterior again. So that could be combined with the same comment. Like we look at, I mean, it's like dressing it differently, right? The idea is just enhancing the location.
True,
with-
but how do we tie it? What we have to do then is tie it to one of the,
Yeah, it's tied to the whole idea of the,
So we
let's
don't
see,
necessarily
look at
have,
number one, architectural design and character, which is based on Craig Bay Resort area.
Mhm,
So
yes.
it's supposed to be specific to that area, correct?
so
In
we,
some way.
we don't necessarily have to tie it directly to the guidelines. They can just be general comments. So I've just written down a few notes as you were speaking, and I just let me know if it sort of encaptures what you're thinking, but just perhaps for the applicant to consider opportunities to enhance the overall building identity, such
Yes.
as through the use of colors and materials.
I think that's perfect.
And there was also a comment from, I forget her name.
Maureen.
Yeah, about the corners and that the building shouldn't feel too much like it's floating, where the renderings tended to look like there's a white kind of pillar-like area on the corner, especially the one that's not on the highway, but both are like that. That, instead of stopping above the ground, might connect to the ground a little bit stronger. I would kind of tend to think that's in one way, a design question, but if you were talking about making the exterior a little bit different, then that could be part of it too. She recommended it. I'm just remembering that, right? So
Maybe there's one corner that has a green wall and all of a sudden it becomes that building that has the greenery growing on the south face, or maybe not a green wall, maybe, no one building here, that just has a surfboard on the wall and it creates an identity with that one simple thing. It's so simple. It doesn't need to be that the whole building needs to change. It just needs to give it the thing that makes it, that is what the building is.
That makes it stand
That's what
out.
it is. It means something.
there's
So-
a
so I
tradition in terms of social housing, there's a lot of cities where they always demand a certain amount of the budget goes toward art. And in a lot of cities, that becomes one thing that is then put on the wall. But 50, 60 years later, it's identified with the building, even though it's something very simple and rudimentary. Often it's special because some artist got money for doing something and it was very small, but it has value over time. Has a great deal of value over time. It grows on people's minds and hearts,
I was hearing as well the comments about amenities or about that common area. So consideration for the placement of amenity spaces and perhaps covering one of them. I picture a gazebo over it or something. It would be, I think it's a wonderful idea. Yeah. Someplace out of the harsh sun or the rain. Yeah.
Yeah.
People like Kingsley Manor, they party in the undercover. They have all their social gatherings outside in that undercover area that they utilize as and they have social gatherings. It's not ideal that you party in your party, but they're very creative and that's what they've done to be able to.
So there's a need. So yeah, having cover, like even a gazebo or some kind of cover.
Yeah, it's just one long table under there that's, you can have dinner with their family or something outside. Not in the parkade. I see people doing that all the time. They're creating makeshift projects like this, some of the multifamily projects, because we get a lot of rain. And so it's just about having somewhere outdoors that you can go that isn't the parkade that is covered during the 8 months of the year we're getting rain.
Mhm. Okay, so that one as a
Okay.
a comment at least.
So I have 4 jotted down and I'll just say them out loud and just a reminder to please use your microphones because my note taker back at their desk can't hear the live stream unless we have the microphones on. So I have the first recommendation again is take a second regarding development permit area, guideline 7, area 7, guideline 1C and 1D. Reconsider taking a look at the siding materials and such as the proposed metal. Another guideline is regarding, or another consideration is regarding the use of the amenity space, consideration of both placement, location, and opportunities for a covered gathering space. And the third one is recommend, sorry, I'm just opportunities for the building to consider enhancing the encouraging enhancement of the building identity through the use of colors and materials. And number 4 is consider opportunities to enhance the ground level corner design of the building. Is that sort of?
Could you possibly add,
Okay.
consider bike maintenance
Mm.
facilities as, and potentially, you know, like an outdoor dog wash or something like that, add that to the resident amenities, whether it's just a hose bib. I thought that was a really good comment, which makes the development more livable.
And then my only question is, we have a few different sample resolutions that we can do. So you can either request the development permit be accepted as presented is option 1. Another option is to request the applicant provide additional information back to staff. Or we can request that they reappear for the panel for reconsideration. Which approach did you want to take? And these samples are on page 2 of your books.
So just to clarify, number 4 would be recommendations that are then just checked by staff. I think
Yep.
you just said that. And the 5th one would be basically the same thing, but it would be coming back to the panel.
Mhm.
So,
I think recommendations by staff, I don't see the need
Okay.
to come back to panel. Okay, I move that the meeting be adjourned. Seconded.
Can we get sorry, yes, okay.
Oh, mover in a second. I think, didn't I, can I move? I moved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Meeting's adjourned. It's 3:55. Thank you so much.